I should say Honorable Eric Adams.
Thank you very much.
To join my interview.
Yes.
Yeah.
亚当斯出生于1960年，在纽约市警察局服务多年，是纽约州参议院民主党参议员。2013年，亚当斯被选为布鲁克林区长，成为第一位担任此职的非裔美国人。他在竞选时获得华社的支持，上任后也与华裔民众保持着密切关系。他曾推动8大道牌楼兴建工程，建立与中国城市的合作关系。今年春节，亚当斯举办联欢会，向华裔人士颁奖，感谢他们对社区做出的贡献。但是近日他在纽约市特殊高中的问题上，却引起了华裔的强烈不满。
When Mayor de Blasio announced his plan to eliminate the admission test for the city's specialized high schools, you were there with him, and that gave people the impression that you were supporting the plan. Were you or not?
No, not his full plan. In the room that day were advocates for education. Many of us were looking at how do we deal with a very real issue, and that is to ensure that all children have an opportunity to have a quality education. I held hearings for several months where I brought in people to speak with them and talk about the expansion of gifted and talented programs and entries into specialized high schools. We thought that was an opportunity to start the conversation. It was far from over. That was the beginning step, and many of the people in the room was part of how do we start the conversation.
It is well known that Chinese people value the education very much. Did you really mean to disappoint them on this topic?
No, my goal is not to disappoint friends. The Chinese community and my office, we have cooperated together on many important items, from the archway to a holiday where Chinese students were able to stay home from school, to dealing with even violence. When a Chinese delivery person was assaulted and attacked, I was there to stand with the Chinese community. When there was a shooting of a Chinese officer that shot an African-American young man, I sat down with the Chinese community and African-American leaders to quell the anger on both sides. And I don't want to ever do anything to offend anyone who I believe is a friend. And I believe the Chinese community has been a friend and will always be a friend. And no matter how difficult a topic is, we will come together, we will sit down, we will talk together and come to a resolution together.
On June 6, you hosted a community meeting in Dyker Heights. Why do you think it's so important to have that meeting? And what did you take from what you heard from parents and community leaders?
I think that after the announcement took place with the mayor of the city, there were many members of the Chinese community who wanted to hear directly from me on what my thoughts were. And I wanted to hear directly from the Chinese community. And the best way to do that is for both groups to get in the room and sit down and talk. And we did that. The Chinese community clearly laid out their concerns. I heard them clearly. And after hearing them, we went back and set out a formal statement that we mailed to the city on what our position should be around not only specialized high school, but also gifted and talented programs and the expansion of specialized high schools. So it was my goal to let the Chinese community know that I hear you. I wanted to show the Chinese community that not only am I going to come and sit down with you face to face, like others do not do, but I'm also going to listen and I'm going to take back what you give me and have policies that would face what you shared with me. I wanted to say, I'm listening to you and I heard you.
Now that de Blasio's plan is officially on hold in Albany, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's great because this is a very emotional and passionate issue, and we don't want to respect the concerns of any groups. And so I think it's a good idea to hold up. Let's spend the next couple of months of finding what are some of the real ways that we can satisfy those who are concerned about the 8 specialized high schools, and also the concern of expanding other groups to be part of a program that is the same specialized high school mindset.
On June 8th, you held a news conference and announced a proposal to add 5 more specialized high schools. And on the 11th, you sent a letter to the city government and the state council regarding your proposal. Please tell us why you think your proposal could work.
Once I sat in the room with Chinese leaders and I asked, what is the concern? They agreed with me that we must expand the pipeline of having more gifted and talented programs. They agreed with me that we don't have enough seats. We must expand the number of seats for eligible children who are from all communities, including the Chinese community. They agreed with me that we should do free testing, test prep. The sticking point was the 8 schools that are now specialized high schools that take the SHSAT. That was the sticking point. And so, since we agreed on everything but one item that we wanted to be clear on, I said, instead of trying to take away the SHSAT, let's leave that in place. Let's create 5 additional schools in each borough, where those children could be allowed to come in who are not able to get in through the SHSAT program, and we can use several methods to determine their eligibility, like other schools do and some colleges do as well. So this is a way of finding a compromise. The major issue that the Chinese community and others had was not to change the SHSAT for the 8 specialized high school. Let's leave that alone. Let's maintain the same method that we have been using, and let's create 5 additional specialized type high schools, 1 in each borough for children to go to.
Department of Education Chief Richard Krenza said lately, quote, "I just don't buy into the narrative that any one ethnic group owns admission to these schools." What are your comments on this statement?
I don't believe he said it to be hurtful or harmful. I think that he should do as I did and call a meeting with Chinese leaders and communities and lay out his plan and explain exactly what his comments were about. I believe that the Chinese community, as well as the other immigrant communities, they are doing the best they can for their children, as all of us want to do. Sometimes when this happens, there's a lot of emotions involved. My goal is always to take the emotions out and find out how do we work together to find a solution, and I think we can do that.
2018年5月2日，亚当斯在访问八大道华裔社区时表示，在70、80年代，非裔和西裔学生曾占市特殊高中学生人数的40%，如今该比例降至2%左右。其原因不在考试本身，而是这些学生没能获得应有的帮助。亚当斯强调，所有学生都应有机会通过考试进入特殊高中。他绝不支持种族限额制度，而是希望全市都设立天才班等辅助项目，帮助有需要的少数族裔学生。
The debate about specialized high school admissions has been very divisive, with individuals seeking to pit groups against each other. Why do you think that is? And what can you do to change that?
I think that when you talk about education, it is one of the most emotional issues you can imagine, because we all know that education is the key for our child's success. It's extremely passionate. And the only way we can make sure that we do not create permanent barriers to long-term friends is to talk to each other. Because just as in any marriage, there are days where we would dispute husband and wife. Just as in any relationship, there are days when we're going to have disagreements. None of us will have a perfect life without knowing there are some times we're going to disagree. The question is not, are we going to disagree? The question is, how do we resolve our disagreements? That's what I want to be. I have a great relationship with the Chinese community, and I've stood side by side with them, and they've stood side by side with me. We will work through any disagreements. No matter how passionate it is, we'll find a solution together.
Needless to say, children are our future, and responsible adults have to guide them. Will you involve educators and researchers in such a sensitive and careful decision?
Particularly in Brooklyn, where 47% of Brooklynites speak a language other than English at home. And all of us want the best for these children. And I want to bring in my educators, my scholars, my parents, those who understand this issue. The city has done a terrible job in the past of ensuring that we have enough seats, that we allow enough children to have access to gifted and talented programs and specialized high school at the end of those gifted and talented programs. We have to do a better job, and together we can do that better job.
And that is why you want to run for the mayor of New York City?
Yes, it is. I believe that what is missing in government is patience and tolerance. I've learned as a police officer for over 22 years. Many of those years was right in the Chinatown district down in Manhattan. And I learned that if people do not have the tolerance and patience to learn what's important to each other, you can't really govern the city. I don't want to view the city only from my lens. I want to view the city from the lens of everyone that's here. And I think my tolerance, my patience, my willingness to come into a difficult environment and communicate and respect people is an attribute that I think is important for the leaders. I am not the Donald Trump type candidate. I am a candidate that believes that America belongs to all of us. The Chinese residents played a major input in how this country became great. It was the Chinese community that built the transcontinental railroad system and received the same level of harassment and bias that African Americans receive. That is the temperament that I come to government with, to change that and develop these relationships that we both want the same, to raise healthy children and families. And I want to be a partner with all my communities, including the Chinese communities, to accomplish this.
亚当斯在拜访八大道华人社区时，首次宣布竞选纽约市长。亚当斯支持反对纽约警察局的停止和搜身政策，保护隐私权，支持婚姻平等，反对基于种族、相貌和性别的歧视，反对家庭暴力和虐待老人，提倡改善医疗保健和可负担住房的供应。
What will be your style of leadership if you are elected mayor of New York City?
Inclusiveness. I will have the first Chinese deputy mayor in the city of New York. I will look into all areas of government, and you will see the diversity. You will see New York City in my administration. I will also look at how do we spend our $89 billion budget. Are we allowing women and minority-owned business to be a part of that? I will look at where are our police officers and the diversity in police officers. Are we recruiting to make sure that other immigrant groups, including the Chinese community, have commanders that are of Chinese and Asian descent? I will look at some of our areas of business to see where we're doing our business and are we fairly distributing our resources to all communities. Do we have senior centers for our Asian Americans who are here? Are we doing a better job or a good job with our immigrant population to show them a pathway to be involved? I will lift the ban on and fight to make sure that those immigrant groups are able to get a driver's license. I would do more to bring our city together. That is my goal. We have so much in common. And I would do everything I can to highlight that, like I do every year in my International Day of Friendship, where different groups come together, waving their flag of their homeland, showing that they too love America and wants to be part of America. And that's the type of leader I would be for this city.
You've been vocal about protecting undocumented immigrants. Would you suggest passing sanctuary laws?
Yes, we here in New York, we're considered a safe sanctuary city here. We're going to do whatever we're able to do on the local level. Many of our immigration laws are passed on the national level, but each city has the authority to ensure that police officers, which is the largest body of law enforcement agencies in a city, they must ensure that their police officers are not doing the job of ICE or federal laws. Here in New York, we're doing that. Our police officers, when they go out for a call of service, they do not ask a person what is their immigration status. We do not treat people differently in a hospital if they need medical care. We do not tell a child they cannot attend school if they don't have the proper immigration status. So we are a safe sanctuary city, and we're going to continue to do that. One of the things I'm pushing forward with is to allow those who are green card holders to be able to become firefighters and police officers. We're also pushing the initiative to have the governor do a call and set in place that a person who has a green card should be allowed to get a driver's license, as I mentioned. We believe this is something that he can do with his powers, and we're sending a communications to him to actually move forward with this initiative. The more we allow documented and immigrants and even undocumented to have proper identification, like the municipal ID program, the better it is for them to be able to participate in everyday American lifestyle. And this is a win-win for the country. Immigrants, documented and undocumented, they bring billions of dollars into commerce into the country. They are mainly and primarily gainfully employed, and they participate in the American experience. We need to do everything we can to allow them to have a safe pathway to freedom.
As a former police officer, you've been vocal on the need for a diverse NYPD. What would you do to help make the police more reflective of the communities they serve?
I think that it's important to meet community leaders in their communities. So I feel that there are three primary things that we can do. One, we need to go into the communities, the diverse communities, and recruit on the ground. I think we should use the methods that people understand to recruit. Second, there must be a pathway to promotion. We don't do enough promotion of the diverse groups. We need to do a better job at that. And third and lastly, we need to ensure that the process within the police department is fair. That comes down to discipline, how we're treating officers who are doing a great job, how do we reward them to a pathway towards becoming a detective, which is not an examination, it is also an appointment. When various communities start to see police officers who look like them, understand their culture, live in their community, you will see a larger number of police officers and recruits and cadets being a part of the program. One important thing we must do in government, we must use all of our powers to effect change. The power that governors have to use executive orders to pass how we are going to implement policies, opening our offices to allow diversity, to hear the voices of everyone, being willing to meet people on the ground in their communities is so important. And I want to continue to do that. It is so important to me that we continue to talk. I have so much to learn from all the communities in the city. I want to continue to learn from them, and I want them to learn from me. And I think together we can make this a great city to live. We can be the model city.
Why does bringing the friendship archway in Sunset Park mean so much to you?
Because it's a symbol of Chinese political strength. For far too long, the Chinese community has lived in the shadows of the American experience. But they had no symbols here in the city to show their political power, their strength, their commitment, and what they have given to this city. That archway means so much. And we're not going to have a 3-roof or 2-roof archway. That is not suitable for the borough of Brooklyn, where is one of the largest Chinese populations outside of Beijing. We're going to have a 9-roof archway, an imperial archway in Brooklyn. It is going to send a strong message that all the strength, all the struggles, all the trials, all the difficult moments that the Chinese community experienced in America, that archway is going to be a symbol of their strength that will be here for generations to come. And Chinese children will be able to walk by and look at that archway and say, we too are respected in this country. New York is so important. We're the 3rd largest city in America. The way goes New York, goes America. The way goes America, goes the entire globe. So if we have an archway in New York City, it's a signal for the entire globe. And I know how important it is. And although my predecessor, the former borough president, tried, he was not able to bring it to completion. My goal is to bring it to completion and bring an archway to New York, the first archway in New York City, the largest archway in the entire country. That is an unbelievable accomplishment that the Chinese community of Brooklyn and New York City is going to be able to say.
Trump's trade war with China has already hurt American businesses. How will you protect the businesses owned by Chinese immigrants here in New York City?
It is really unfortunate when you look at some of the things that are taking place in Washington, D.C. Free trade allows us an opportunity to learn from each other and interact with each other. And it's something that the federal government, the president, and Congress, they decide the rules surrounding that. But on a local level, local cities are doing things that are extremely important to continue to encourage interaction between our different countries. It is my goal to continue to use my trips to China and bring delegations here to New York to expand on how do we grow our relationships in 3 primary areas. One is business. How do we learn the different products that we can distribute and make here in America and particularly in Brooklyn and in New York City? The second is cultural exchange. The more we learn about each other's culture and how to appreciate and respect the historical importance of each other's culture, our relationships will grow and strengthen. And lastly, I want our young people of China to interact with the young people here in America so that we can learn from each other and realize our neighborhood is not just merely the blocks that we live on, but it's the entire country and globe. Those are our neighborhood partners. What Trump is doing, in my belief, is hurting some of those things we have built on in the past. But we should always keep in mind, in America, a president only is elected for 4 years. We believe there's going to be energy across the entire country in the next presidential election where people are going to stand up and say, America is better than going against our long existing partners. And we're going to reestablish those relationships on the federal level the same way we are retaining and holding on to them on the local level. We will continue to build a strong relationship with China here in New York and here in Brooklyn, regardless of what happens on the national level.
The works you have done in building up the economic relationship between Brooklyn and the Chinese companies in mainland China.
There's a high need in both cities to learn in the areas of technology. How do we share that technology to make our cities a better place to live? The same problems we're having here in Brooklyn, Shanghai is facing as well. We're dealing with things such as traffic, such as using dockless bikes, such as how do we deal with healthcare issues. And so as long as we keep the doors open of communicating and exchanging ideas and exchanging business interests, we will continue to expand together and our countries will both expand together. So I am extremely encouraged. Oftentimes, delegations come from the various Chinese cities and they stop in and see me, and we take them around to show them what we're doing here in Brooklyn. We're encouraged to continue to do that, and every time I travel to China, the hospitality and the treatment is extremely respectful, and I'm learning more and more about the businesses in China and how do we bridge them together to create a better product. China is a large market, one of the largest on the globe, and America is an important market. I think the combination of our relationships is going to ensure that we always produce the best product for both countries.
What have you learned from the Chinese community that could make Brooklyn and New York City better for everyone?
When we had the meeting in Sunset Park, it was a very emotional and passionate issue. But I've never seen a greater level of discipline, calmness, and willingness to talk. In many communities, you don't see that. And because we talk to each other, I had the opportunity to hear them, and they had the opportunity to hear me. And I was able to go back after that conversation and say, here's what I heard, and here's how we do things differently, that I'm going to respect your pains, and you're going to respect the things that I'm calling for as well. That's a model of what we need to do as a city. And I commend the Chinese community for doing that. And that level of respect and dignity is something that's important for all communities to have. We should never stop talking as human beings, and I hope that we can continue to do that.
Thank you very much, Eric Adams, for taking time attending my interview.
Thank you.